We have the entity in those relations with the universe and universal forces, as are latent and exhibited in the present entity. In entering, we find the entity coming under the influence of Venus, Uranus, Jupiter, Mercury. In the astrological aspects, these would, in a manner, be contradictory to that as has been builded in the entity in the present experience. Also there will be seen variations in the application of the entity's experience in various other experiences in the Earth's plane. So, in this instance, again we would find, astrologically, astronomically, or even in numerology, would not coincide with the experiences of the entity, save as a general manner, or as may be termed, in common parlance, the variation as is exhibited in this entity's experience would prove a rule that may be made helpful. Though, as has been seen, a life experience may be made more helpful for the entity. Then, disregarding the application of will's influence in the present experience, for a moment, we would find one that purely, or naturally, attuned to high emotions in life, whether this be of a secular nature or of the high vibrations. One that has ever been able to find beauty in every element, save when condemning self or condemning actions in another, yet ever feeling the vibrations have something to do with the individual, as would colour or harmony of any nature, yet applying will and will's influence to these very same innate abilities, or preferably they should be called qualities, the entity then becomes able to harmonise same, so that in their synchronization there arises good from whatever experience a body, or an entity, may experience. Will that entity but use same as a stepping stone, rather than a stumbling block, or a falling column. In the experiences that have been had in the Earth's plane, these alter or change much in the various experiences of the entity, so that there may be seen many variations, and at times even contradictory evidences to the body entity, and same has at times become the rough-hewn pathway that has led the entity on. Even in mental and physical anguish has the entity developed in the manner of application of the experience to self's own interest. Not selfish in motive, not bigoted in act, not wayward in thoughts, but tempered and temperate in all things. In the astrological urges, these are evidenced in the present experience, and these be the applications in the present experience of both the innate feeling or experience and the application of will, or self, to that experience. In Venus, love for the fellow man, not as pity, rather as honouring the abilities of the individual in the direction as may be taken by that individual for the development of self as a whole toward others. In Uranus is seen those of the occult and mystic nature, tending to either raise one's vision to a high degree or grovelling in the slough of despondency. In Will's lift up, look up, raise up, has ever been the entity's innate expression. Will has influenced the entity much in this direction, and in the hours of greatest despair has come the light that is ever available when the body entity allows the divine, of which the soul is the spark, or portion, to enter in and make his abode there. In Jupiter comes the bigness of purpose, the strength and might that either overcomes or is subdued by self, making an understanding, the ability to conquer in his name. In Mercury the mental influences are abroad, either for the uplifting in the activities of the mental being, or turned into those of selfish natures. In the application of self, this entity has gained the ability of discernment, and in the way of using the little in hand to gain the greater understanding of the whole. In music the entity finds much solace, much that bridges those distances, whether of the mental or of the spiritual forces. In same the attunement of self may be brought the nearest to the applications of the innate forces of self, and to the entity the strains of same, whether in that of the deep vibrations, of those that raise up and up, or those of the higher chords that bind, carry for the entity the attunement of self in the sphere or element, or phase of experience the entity seeks apace. Well were this developed to a more acuteness in this present experience, for the acumen of experience to the entity is gained much more in a manner that may become concrete examples of the attunement of a soul with the heavenly, or the happy, choir. In colour harmony, again, these often clash. In the harmony of strength, or might, the entity falters. This may be seen from the experiences of the entity. In a word, much has been made of the present experience, and it will lie within the own desire of the entity as to whether the return in Earth's experience becomes necessary or not. For in Okjara's forces, these become all magnified in Wolf's force, and the conquering of self is truly greater than were one to conquer many worlds, and is conquering those of our, or of our son's own attributes. In experiences in the Earth's plane, in the one before this we find not so great a way off, for in the period when that dethroned monarch Charles II ruled France, the entity then an attendant, and an aid to, the offspring of those that suffered physically, and gained, even through the suffering, the fear of power, of might, without the divine influence of its rule, becomes innate in the entity from that which the entity suffered during that period. In the name deity. In the experience before this we find in that land now known as Greece, during that period when Xenophon carried on after the return from the Eastern land, the entity then among those whom service was made and given by that ruler, or one in power, gaining and losing through the experience, gaining for the faith and service rendered many during the trials of that waiting, losing in the misapplication of the power gained by being put in an exalted position. Many were the experiences for the entity followed them in the aggrandizing of bodily or physical desires, and the dance, the wine cup and revelry, in the desire for plaudit's sake, sought by the entity. In the present, these, we find some come among those tempting, yet be not hard upon those who seek in such manners to find expressions of themselves, for they know not what they do. In the one before this we find in that land now known as India, the entity then among those when there came the destruction of the peoples in the valleys by those who would make rule from the hills, the entity then among those that were conquered in body, but not in mind, and little by little the entity, through that experience, brings to bear such influence, such a condition, as to bring the peoples who would become the rulers in accord with the mental and the spiritual builders of that land, and of the house came Abraham, of the body came that leader, that people, in the name Terah, not the father, but mother. GD single quote note, EC spelled T-R-A-H-E. She was the wife of Terah, who was the father of Abraham. See General 1126-32. In this present experience the entity finds history, travel, seeking of knowledge, study of stars, to the answer of a something not wholly understood. For in that period the great outdoors became the dwelling place of the entity, and much gaining position, power, abilities to aid, abilities to control, abilities to lead. The entity became the real business head of the then Chaldeans that arose later in the land. In the one before this we find in that land, when divisions arose, now known as Egyptian, and the entity then in the household of the ruler as was deposed when those of Arat came in from the north. The entity then that one who became the recluse and hermit in the halls of the house of worship, learning the peoples first to the chant for the dead, and the book of the dead were a portion of the entity's own inscribing. In the name of Tazultoya. In the experience the entity lost and gained, gained in the latter experience, when there were harmonies set up and the chants were again heard in what later became tombs. In the present, much of that innate in the entity of music and colour is a portion of the entity's inner being, and one from outside may play upon the chords of the entity's feeling in word, or song, or stringed instruments. Not the fanfare of the trumpet calls, but in strings much is felt. In the one before this we find in the land known as Atlantis, the entity among those who held for the subserving of the ideals as to turning same into self-glory, self-satisfying. Knowing much of the abilities of the peoples during the period of destruction, and destroyed physically with the first destruction that came to that peoples of that period. Yet holding aloft, that the relationships of individuals' experience should be in accord with the divine, rather than using the divine for selfish motives, whether as fame, fortune, power, or bodily pleasure. In the name Asma, in the abilities that the entity attains in the present, as to accord, and the desires of the entity towards the people of the period, are still held aloof as worshipfulness of the power used for destructive rather than constructive forces. In the present, the abilities lie in the innate forces of the teacher, the guider, towards attuning self in harmony with the divine from within, and harmonizing self in color. Ready for questions. Q. How can the entity best help humanity? A. In aiding to gain for individuals, not groups, the knowledge of the individual's attunement in its individual field for development. That is, as the entity goes about to and fro about the earth, there are attractions and detractions of individuals. Help that individual to find self's own relationship to the divine. For in self must come the response of a need for such before it may be wholly awakened in an entity. For true indeed is that given, they who would seek God must believe that he is, and that self must sometime, somewhere, account for that as has been lent to the servant. We are through.